Is Ukraine continuing its offensive, but is even the U.S. tempering their expectations? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's July 2nd, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. Okay, first, let's talk about the control map. There actually hasn't been any updates since yesterday, but what we have seen is, again, just the very limited advances that we're seeing Ukrainian forces make across the Zaporizhzhia line. There's also been, of course, incremental progress in Bakhmut. And when we look over to the combat map, you can see there is a slightly different perspective. Again, actually, there hasn't been much of an update as well, though some of these details show that Russian forces continuing to counterattack in Bakhmut in the urban areas, as well as in the surrounding countryside. You can see, again, Ukrainian forces retaking piece by piece some of this territory. Of course, just got to shout out combatvetnews.com. If you believe in my analysis, if you like my analysis, if you want to keep me independent, you know that YouTube is not a fan of war content. Patreon, not a fan of war content. I had to launch my own site. So if you want to become a member, any one of these tiers is going to get you access to the members only content area. And we've been analyzing footage from the front lines, including some of the footage, drone footage of Ukrainian forces operating in a deadly minefield that really reflects just how dangerous this environment is and why things are going as slow as they are. Now, here's where things get interesting. The Ukrainian counteroffensive, according to Mark Milley, will be very long and very bloody. And like a true politician, he's trying to downplay the extremely rosy hopes for the Ukrainian armed forces at the start of this. He said they are advancing steadily and deliberately, but acknowledged the fight would be very long and very bloody. Now, he acknowledged that, is the counteroffensive happening slower than computers might have said or other people might have said? Yes, Milley said. What I had said was this is going to take 6, 8, 10 weeks. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very long, and it's going to be very, very bloody. And no one should have any illusions about that. Ukraine is fighting for its life, he says. It's an existential fight for Ukraine. Now, what's interesting, too, we can get a little bit of insight into what exactly he's thinking. Right? He said he claims he wasn't surprised by the slow progress of the fight, which is being waged in eastern and southern Ukraine. I am a skeptic. I understand as a politician, you have to act like you like no one wants a general who can't do good assessments. But the reality is that counteroffensive work of this nature, they were trained for maneuver warfare. There's an expectation that they would be able to conduct maneuver warfare. And the truth is that it hasn't panned out. And one of the reasons that he goes, at the end of the day, Milley says, Ukrainian soldiers are assaulting through minefields and into trenches. So yeah, it's going to go a little slow, but that's part of the nature of war. And here's the truth, that what they need to do, and I think General Milley and the planners at the Pentagon recognized, is that ultimately it comes down to the Ukrainian ability to do one thing. That is get behind Russia's ability to construct defense works. I think Zaporizhzhia was just a mistake. I think going here was a mistake. Their defense in depth is too well prepared. You can see they have dozens of kilometers deep, minefields, trenches, more trenches. These are just what's depicted and known. But you know that Russian soldiers with shovels are digging trenches all the time, re-entrenching themselves in place after place. I think the better bet would have been to punch back hard in Bakhmut. That's where the Russian forces have not pivoted to the defense, where they have spent most of their time on offense. And this is significant, right? You remember months ago, Zaporizhzhia, you never saw Russian ground attacks, right? Because all of their combat forces were focused on building the most defensive positioning possible. And the truth is, Russia is not an incompetent military. And even General Milley knows this, right? While they have lots of problems, a lot of corruption, history has shown Russian military might, it learns. It's a battleship. It learns slowly, but it learns deliberately, and it's learning to get better at defense. So again, he said he was optimistic about the Ukrainian effort, drew a parallel with June 1944 Normandy landings, where there was initial predictions of a swift march to Paris. Paris, but the realities of combat were harsh. He said, quote, "Look at war on paper and real war are different. And in real war, real people die. Facts. Real people are on those front lines, real people in those vehicles, real bodies being shredded by high explosives, so on and so forth." It's true. And, you know, it's funny. I think he may be referring to the same video that we analyzed on Combat Vet News. It's pretty graphic, and I'm sure he has seen it. I'm sure it has been used to drive the fact that Ukrainian forces need a huge increase in their ability to penetrate and clear minefields. They just don't have it right now. And for 2 decades, mines were a problem measured in single digits at a time. IEDs, you would have maybe 1, 2 IEDs. Now we're talking about hundreds or thousands of mines deployed in the same spot. And it is an absolute nightmare for Ukrainian forces. Anyway, guys, that's really all I had for you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks to our combatvetnews.com members, all our colonel tier members, all of our lieutenant tier members. You guys are the ones who make this whole thing possible. Thank you so much. And I will see all you guys in the next one.